caution tape, a beware of dog sign, and the dentist office. Yep. Those all have something in common that you can pull strength from when you're doing your boundaries. See, the biggest issue that you have when you say people overstep the boundaries is there's no consequence. You can't just say, okay, I'm not going to be available for it. Well, that's fine. That's the doorway. But what happens if somebody goes through that doorway? Then what? Then you go, I don't like it. Well, that's not a consequence, right? So let's break it down. I'm going to break it down for you. Caution tape, right? So let's say you're just walking around and you see caution tape around some trees. They're just around a whole bunch of trees. You can look, I wonder what that is. It's not a wall. There's not a fortress that goes, you can't get in here, right? Because boundaries are different than walls. You don't want walls that do protect, they also imprison. So you go, okay, well, maybe I want to go under that caution tape and see what's going on over there. So you go underneath that caution tape because you're nosy. I get it. Go in there and you're like, whoa, and you fall into this big hole. But you couldn't see a big hole because in between it was like, there was grass, but there was like hollow underneath it and you fell into this hole. Now you're mad. Oh my God, I fell into a hole. Oh my God, I fell into a hole. Well, good enough for you. You did that to your damn self. You did that to yourself, right? Because you went beyond the caution tape. The caution tape, by the way, there wasn't a big announcement that was like, hey, you're getting too close. Hey, I'm cautioning you. I'm going to remind you that I'm cautioning you. Whoa. Nobody's doing that. The caution tape's like, I'm here. This is the boundary. Don't go past this. If you choose to go past it, you have a consequence. Okay. Beware a dog sign. See, beware a dog sign, but you're like, I want to go in that yard anyway. Again, you might have a fence, but it's not a wall. Or maybe it's not even that. Maybe you're just going to walk through somebody's house, right? You think, yeah, you kind of know the dog. You're going to walk in their house anyway. Beware a dog sign is there. You go in, you get bit. Well, oh well, you did that to yourself because you decided to go past that boundary. And again, the beware a dog sign isn't saying anything to you like, hey, don't come in here because there's a big dog in here. Like it's not going through the rhetoric of constant repetitiveness, right? But there's a consequence. You go in there. Hey, it's out of my control. I warned you. You came in, you got bit. It's on you, right? You could see the same thing with like a trespassing sign, no trespassing, right? You go through trespassing. Let's say you're like, oh, haha, I did it. And they had cameras. Next thing you know, cops are at your door and they go, hey, we're arresting you for trespassing. And you're like, oh my God, now you're like chagrined. You're like, oh, what? Yeah, that's on you. The dentist office, right? Typically, now, if you don't look at the fine print or if they say, hey, if you don't cancel this appointment within 24 hours, you're going to be billed $50, right? And you go, okay, yeah. And you kind of sign it halfway. I don't know, you get busy. First of all, it's not their problem. That's not their reminder, right? To be like, hey, reminder, you have a dentist appointment in 3 days. Okay. Hey, you have a dentist appointment in 2 days. Hey, are you still coming? Are you going to come to the dentist appointment? Don't forget, if you don't come, you're going to get charged. They don't do any of that. They tell you straight up from the door. If you don't cancel within 24 hours, you're going to be billed $50. I don't care that you get busy. I don't care that you weren't thinking about it. I don't care that you weren't reminded for it. You're 2 hours out and you're like, man, I really can't make it. Well, don't sit there and try to negotiate it. Be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, oh man, like I'm not feeling good and all this. Okay. That's fine that you're not coming in. You're still getting billed $50. So that's where you have to ask yourself, the reason you're frustrated with yourself, first of all, no one can overstep a boundary unless you let them. But if they do overstep that boundary, what's going to be the consequence? See, that's where you're getting yourself caught up. You don't have a consequence. Well, I don't like when they do that. My boundary is I don't want to be available. Okay. Well, what happens if they do overstep that boundary? Well, I don't like it. Again, there's no consequence there. So I'll give you some examples. My boundaries are really strong. I'm not going to reiterate them. I'm not going to be repetitive in nature, right? If, I'm very flexible on my terms, but I am flexible, but within reason. And what I mean by that is like, okay, maybe I say, listen, every Saturday, I'm not going to have anybody over the house. Like that's my boundary. It's my day to recover. And then I don't know, the weather's good. I'm feeling kind of good about it. I'm like, hey, you know what? You guys want to come over? Like whatever, right? That's kind of like a flexible boundary. However, if I'm like, hey, Sunday is my pool day, and unless I invite somebody over, I don't want any drop-ins, or, like I might say that straight up one time. That's my beware a dog sign. Like, hey, caution tape, like, hey, well, and now if you drop in and I say, hey, I'm not having visitors today. And then you go getting offended and you're like, oh my God, that was rude. No, I told you I don't have visitors on this day, So the thing is you have to establish what your consequences are going to be. So my question to you is, what consequences do you have for your boundaries? Right? Really ask yourself that. What consequences do you have for your boundaries? And if you don't have any, what consequences are you going to enact? And you don't say a consequence out of emotion. Oh my God, I'm so mad. I'm going to disown everybody. Like, stop. But if that means, hey, I'm not going to engage in this conversation. Somebody comes at you sideways and you go, hey, I don't allow myself to be spoken to that way. And if it continues, and you don't even have to say this, but if it continues, I'm going to block you, or, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Doesn't matter how they receive it. That's a beware a dog sign, right? Electric fence, beware, going to get shocked. Yo, that's a direct thing. The fence shocks you and you go, oh my God, that's so rude. No, it told you straight up and down, I'm going to shock you. So ask yourself right now, why do you think that your boundaries aren't working? And then say, oh, what consequences do I have with them?